The principles and practices of Stoicism of ancient Greece largely replaced and followed those of the Cynics. Cynicism was founded by Zeno of Citium and based on the life of Cynic. Cynic was a member of a Greek philosophical community that flourished from the 4th century before the Common Era until well into the Common Era. Cynicism maintains that people are animals capable of reason. Furthermore, according to the Cynics, the purpose of life is to achieve virtue in agreement with protecting the natural world by living simply and shamelessly, free from social constraints. The Cynics literally barked like dogs at those who displeased them, spurned conventional etiquette, and lived within the bounds of the natural world. The Cynics were, and are, harsh critics of dogmatic thought and metaphysical ideas. Enter Stoicism, a school of philosophy founded in the early part of the 3rd century BCE. Stoicism attempts to maximize positive emotions, minimize negative emotions, and achieve a well-lived life by focusing on one's character. As I have mentioned previously in this space, modern Stoicism can be reduced to a single idea that stems from Lucius Annaeus Seneca the Younger, usually called Seneca. Seneca indicated that there are phenomena over which we have control, and others we do not. We must focus on the former, not the latter. Doing so will alleviate our suffering while allowing us to positively impact society. As I have mentioned frequently, the two-word motto of modern Stoicism is amor fati. Amor fati means to love one's fate. I recognize that this is sometimes difficult, even for people who look and act like me, Caucasian, heterosexual, and male. Despite the many privileges that come to me simply because of features over which I have no control, I still occasionally quote Roddy Piper from the 1988 film They Live. Quote, "Life's a bitch and she's in heat again." End quote. If you're looking for a description of Stoicism based on its opposite, then look no further than libertinism. Libertinism is the embrace of indulgence and a lack of self-restraint. It is an extreme form of hedonism. Perhaps the best-known Stoic was Roman Emperor Marcus Aurelius. Aurelius was born on April 26, 121 BCE. He died fewer than 59 years later, on March 17, 180 BCE. He was the emperor of Rome during the last 2 decades of his life. He famously wrote Meditations, a series of private notes to himself. These notes were intended to provide guidance and self-improvement. These notes were never intended for publication. There are now more than a dozen English translations of Meditations, including relatively recent versions published by major publishing companies. For the remainder of this video, I will simply include a few expressions from well-known Stoics. 4 of the 10 expressions come from Roman Emperor Marcus Aurelius. As I display these expressions, I will briefly comment on them and the person who created them. First up, from Theophrastus, who lived from 371 BCE until 287 BCE. Aristotle was his teacher, and Aristotle gave Theophrastus his writings. Aristotle also designated Theophrastus as his successor at his school. Best known as the father of botany, Theophrastus wrote 2 large books on the topic, Inquiry into Plants and On the Causes of Plants. From Theophrastus comes the line, quote, "Time is the most valuable thing a man can spend." From Seneca comes a related line, quote, "The whole future lies in uncertainty. Live immediately." End quote. Modern Stoicism stems from an idea of Seneca's in which he indicated that there are phenomena over which we have control and others that we do not. We must focus on the former, not the latter. Doing so will alleviate our suffering while allowing us to positively impact society. This idea serves as excellent advice for each of us as we struggle to seek meaning in our lives. My third expression comes from Aristotle, who lived from 384 BCE to 322 BCE. During his 62 years, Aristotle became among the most famous philosophers ever. He wrote about the natural sciences, philosophy, linguistics, economics, politics, psychology, and the arts. He is commonly referred to as the first genuine scientist. He identified and categorized various scientific disciplines and explored their relationships to each other. He believed a person's character was the most critical aspect of their life. The expression I've chosen from among many written by Aristotle, quote, "We are what we repeatedly do. Excellence, then, is not an act, but a habit," end quote. Much more recently, Marcus Aurelius provided a similar expression, quote, "Each of us lives only now, this brief instant. The rest has been lived already, or is impossible to see," end quote. This expression from Aurelius is not surprising, considering the time he spent studying the work of early philosophers and his focus on self-improvement. Again, from Marcus Aurelius comes a reminder that our lives could be worse, much worse. Quote, "Never forget that it takes very little to live a fulfilled and happy life," end quote. I strongly suspect you have what it takes to live a fulfilled and happy life at your disposal. If so, perhaps you can focus on some of these pithy expressions by knowledgeable people. After all, on a related note, Aurelius informs us that, quote, "It is not death that a man should fear, but he should fear never beginning to live." After all, on a related note, Aurelius informs us that, quote, "It is not death that a man should fear, but he should fear never beginning to live," end quote. Are you living? Are you truly pursuing living by seeking adventures with your friends? Are you merely passing time, trundling through life as if doing so is a chore you must tolerate? After all, you get to be here, against very long odds. As you trudge through the life you sometimes find overbearing, bear in mind this line from Marcus Aurelius, quote, "You always own the option of having no opinion," end quote. Dinner conversations need not include your commentary on every topic. The same is certainly true for social media. I am frequently asked my opinion about artificial intelligence and other topics about which I know little. I turn away from these discussions because I am not well enough informed to provide a meaningful opinion. After all, as Epictetus said, quote, "You become what you give your attention to," end quote. Who is Epictetus? The birth date of Epictetus is unknown. He was born into slavery in Hierapolis, in what is now western Turkey. He died in 135 BCE in northwestern Greece. His work was written and published by his student, Arrian. Arrian recorded and compiled the discourses, of which 4 of the original 8 books have been retained. Consistent with the works of other Stoics, Epictetus indicated that events beyond our control should not bother us. Indeed, they should not concern us in the least. From Seneca comes a seemingly simple line, quote, "No good thing is pleasant to possess without friends to share it," end quote. Are you fortunate enough to have friends in your life? If so, please consider yourself lucky. Not only do you get to be here at the most interesting time in history, the end, but we also get to spend time with friends. Are you kidding me? As a college roommate used to say in response to almost any greeting or question, quote, "It don't do no good to bitch," end quote. I will conclude with a line from Marcus Aurelius, quote, "Life is warfare and a journey far from home," end quote. We face challenges every day, the nature and magnitude of which threaten to overwhelm us. And yet, in the face of seemingly impossible odds, we are here. We are here now. It could be worse. If the peer-reviewed literature I read is correct, then it soon will be worse. Much worse. This provides additional incentive to live here and now. Doing so with friends with whom to share your life is about as good as it gets. At least in my case, that'll suffice.